a host of governmental commissions have grappled with the task of fashioning out a proper revenue sharing formula for Nigeria. From the Philipson Commission of 1946 to the Hicks-Philipson Commission of 1951 to the Chicks Commission of 53, the Reisman Commission of 57, the Beans Commission of 64, the Dina Commission of 69, the Aboyade Technical Committee of 77, the Okibo Committee of 1980, the Danjuma Commission in 1988, and of course what the RAMFAC is going around doing these days. The vicissitudes of the derivation principle of resource allocation, as pointed out by Fayemi in 2005, who shows how it moved from 100% accruing to the resource host and producers in 1946 to its reduction to 50% between 1951 and 60 at independence, to 45% during the Gowon regime. It fluctuated between 20% and 25% during the Murtala Mohammed Obasanjo administration and went further down to 5% under the Shehu Shagari administration, reduced to 1.5% during the Buhari regime, before rising to 3% during the time of Babangida, from where it appreciated under the Obasanjo administration to 13% for the derivation principle. It is without doubt that access to power is the primary driver of the politics of fiscal federalism and the nature of the derivation principle that is adopted. Presently, one of the sorest points of Nigerian federalism is the agitation of resource-bearing communities for the derivation principles to be increased to at least 50%. And conversely, is the equally vituperative agitation by other communities to reduce the level of resources going to resource-bearing communities. In my view, the panacea for this groundswell of agitation and recurrent outbreak of conflict in the country in our quest for integration and development is dialogue. There is clearly the need for comprehensive dialogue in which the various constituencies and groups in the country will come together to renegotiate the terms of the Nigerian Union and deal decisively with all of the nagging and contentious issues that have been animating the country in a rather callous manner. Issuing from this is the necessity of instituting a comprehensive constitutional reform process in which the responsibilities and preserves of the various levels and tiers of government will be fundamentally reviewed, and questions pertaining to the federation account, the federal character principle, state police, fiscal federalism would be ultimately sorted out among several others. What has compounded the recent crisis and underplayed the need for dialogue and underscored the need for dialogue has been the influence of years of military rule in Nigeria and the exclusive personality-driven projects of civilian rulers. The militarization of the national psyche also affects individuals in their daily lives and increases the authoritarian residues that have made dialogue impossible in the country. Nigeria witnessed, especially under the last military dictatorship, intense communal conflicts that disrupted peaceful relations in several communities. Some of the conflicts have antecedents in old animosities, but many were resource-driven, spurred by perceptions of unequal distribution of governmental resources, incidents of aggression, impatience, and competition arise in domestic violence and other family disputes, over petrol pills, in the conduct of motorists, and in the behavior of the armed forces and police in dealing with ordinary Nigerians. The immediate causes of increased violence and crime include the high unemployment and poverty levels. There are, of course, many who would trace it to religion and ethnicity, but in my view, poverty is violence. Many of the people who are involved in some of the atrocities that have been committed around the country in the name of Boko Haram people who have been hard done by our society, people who feel that they have nothing to lose by resorting to extralegal vehicles for tackling the challenges that they face in their own individual environment. And unless Nigeria returns to a culture of dialogue and also responsive and responsible governance, we're not going to tackle these issues simply by tinkering with the Constitution or even having a national dialogue by default. Any indication, therefore, that government is willing to create the conditions for dialogue in the country is, however, bound to reduce the increasing level of tensions, since many within deprived communities now believe the only language that government understands is violence. The need, therefore, for a national conference as a means of lessening tension in the country is not only desirable but necessary. And the National Assembly in Nigeria has already started a process which is encouraging but is limited. I do not believe that this process, as it currently is with the National Assembly, must remain an end in itself. Clearly, whether we have a national dialogue by the name of national conference or sovereign gathering or whatever appellation is given to it, at the end of what is being put together, in order to really describe it as a people's product, a people's constitution, I believe that we would need a referendum that would subject that eventual draft constitution to the popular will, in order for every Nigerian to own it and accept that this is the true product and not a document that lies against itself. Because if you open the first page of the current document, it talks about we the people. And of course, as we all know, some wise men chosen by the military, no woman amongst them, decided on what should be in that document, not any we the people. And I believe that lawyers, by their training and their disposition, have a critical role to play in our quest for renegotiation, rebirth, renewal towards an integrated whole. I believe that this is necessary and important because the law, as I conceive it, is an instrument for social justice. It's not just a technical profession that resorts to language that is hardly decipherable by the ordinary citizens like myself. When you are tempted, and you are often tempted, to launch into all those res ipsa loquitur, seriatim, ad seriatim, in toto, and all the languages you use. And I know that many of the lawyers that are in this gathering definitely believe that the law should be an instrument for social change and social justice. That is what the NBA has professed. That is what the NBA has been doing. I'm aware the NBA itself has constituted its own committee on constitutional reform. We need to move away from many of the roles that the federal government is playing that it really doesn't have any business in. The federal government buys books for students in primary school in Nigeria. That, to me, is a sacrilege, because the federal government should have no business with buying books at the local level, with providing materials for immunization. I mean, if a state government and a local government cannot provide the basic necessities for its citizens, then it has no business being in government. This also relates to security, and I'm glad the chairman of the Ilorin Bar mentioned that in his speech, that many of us are called chief security officers. It is just a superficial honorific, because it means absolutely nothing when it comes right to brass tacks. The commissioner of police would not take instruction from me. he would not directly tell me that he's not taking instruction from me, but unless he gets a corroborating instruction from his Inspector General of Police, he's not going to do what I've asked him to do in the interest of peace and security in the state. So the reality is that instructions must come from Abuja in order for me to protect the citizens of Ekiti, in order for His Excellency to protect the citizens of Kwara State. And I don't believe that that is the way to go if we must take ownership of our own security, especially in a situation where many of the people we have in uniform sometimes behave like agents of insecurity rather than agents of security. So I think it's absolutely important that we do this and that we take the federal government away from issues like transportation, like the distribution of energy, transmission of energy. Maybe generation, they can stay there, but the generation has even been devolved. So we are doing a bit of generation now, but transmission and distribution is where the challenge lies. We need to move from presidential system of government, in my view, back to parliamentary system of government. If we're to save ourselves from the humongously expensive presidentialism that we're running, which is not really bringing government closer to the people. As I always say, 99% of Ekiti people, they don't know where Abuja is. All they know is their own local area, and at best the state capital and the people who are charged with the responsibility of government there. And they're the ones they hold responsible for most of the problems. People drive on federal roads in my state and they curse me because they think I'm responsible for the fixing of the federal roads. So inevitably, I've taken on the responsibility of fixing all federal roads in Ekiti, because Ekiti people are not interested whether this is Abuja that is responsible or not. They just want good roads that they can travel on. So it's a technical distinction without a difference, whether you say a road is federal or state. And these are the kind of things that we really need to tackle. I also believe that regionalism, rather than be an instrument for secession, as many fear, can actually be an instrument for integration in this case. And I'm happy that it's catching on in virtually all the zones of the Federation. The other day, I noticed that the G7 in the North Central also started a meeting. I think they call it G7 because of the 6 North Central states and FCT. I don't know if FCT is a state now, but lawyers will tell us that we in the Southwest, I'm sure you are aware, we already have a regional integration framework that is focusing on agriculture, on transportation, and on sharing experiences of things that we have that are better than other states. So many of the states come to Ekiti to take away our social security framework for the elderly for implementation in their state. Many go to Ondo for the ABA maternal health program. We go to Lagos to learn about infrastructure development. Osun has its youth empowerment scheme. So the issue for us is that we believe that there is something to learn from one another in a manner that does not turn us into violent competitors, but healthy competitors in the interest and for the benefit of our citizens. So regionalism must also be factored into the new arrangement that is coming in order for us to have the solid integrative framework that we need. Because really, what we have now it is just an artificial territorialism when you cross from Ekiti, as I did, into Kwara. I know that I have people in Kwara. I come from Mission Ekiti. The next village to my community is Okwayegule, and Okwayegule is in Kwara State. They are Ekiti people, as far as we are concerned, but they've been ceded to Kwara for whatever reasons. And that is why we must find integrative framework in all of these entities in the interest of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So local law enforcement is important. And I also believe that gradually we need to begin to reinsert the principle of derivation. I know there's been the argument and the criticism that even the level of derivation we have, what have the states done with it? Those who have 13%, how accountable have they been? Whilst that may be a solid argument to put forward, I think the best mechanism for accountability is still to bring government closer to the people, because it's easier to hold the feet of the councillor and a local government chairman to fire than it is to hold the minister or the president in Abuja to fire. Yes, some will misbehave, but a lot would do well and they will respond to the yearnings of their people. I want to thank you for this wonderful opportunity, and I want to say that as a member, unofficial though, of the Ilorin Bar, clearly I'm going to have to contribute my quota, because if I don't, should I call you your nickname publicly? You don't want me to do that. The chairman of the bar will definitely not let me rest. So let me, on behalf of the good people of Ekiti, and as a way of showing token appreciation, because I can never thank Ilorin Bar enough for what you did in bringing me to this office that I'm in, but at least hopefully I can pay overtime for that great gesture on the part of Malam Yusuf Ali and the wonderful team that took me through the grill for 3.5 years before I finally got my office. Again from Ilorin, by the way. The Court of Appeal here in Ilorin was where I got victory. So to that extent, I would like to donate 5 million naira to the